Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Six Hockey. My name is Simon Hendricks, going solo today. My usual partner in crime, Sammy, he's feeling a bit jet lagged from coming back from vacation. And my other partner in crime, Elias, I'm not too sure where he is. He's probably somewhere in Greek town doing something fun. So I'm coming at you today solo with the podcast, and let's get the obvious out of the way. We are recording this Monday, February 23rd. Canada just lost to the U.S. yesterday. My voice is still a little bit rough from that day. I do apologize for that. But I'm a little bit hockeyed out. And I think some of our viewers might be as well. So with that in mind, we're going to switch focus today. We're going to talk a little bit about some baseball, talking Blue Jays, talking World Baseball Classic, talking general baseball storylines heading in to what I believe is going to be a fantastic 2026 MLB season. Spring training just started. The Blue Jays played their first spring training game just a couple of days ago. Very excited about that. I was shocked. Opening my Score app, the Score, great app. I was shocked on Saturday morning to reload the page and find out that the Jays were already playing spring training. It is moved up a little bit because of the World Baseball Classic. Usually it doesn't start till near the end of February. But either way, still just a pleasant sight to see the Blue Jays being on the Score, playing 107, 307, 707 every day basically until October, and hopefully past October from now on. And with that, let's just get right into this. I'm a huge baseball fan. I played baseball a lot more and a bit more competitively than I ever played hockey back in my prime. The Blue Jays are my team. I love the Leafs. I love the Raptors. Hell, I even love the Argos. Blue Jays are my team. You know, I've been following this team ever since I was a little kid. I fell in love with the 2015 team. A little bit of love lost. Not necessarily love lost, but a little bit of, I don't know if this team's got it for the years following, and a couple bad playoff losses to Seattle and even worse, maybe against Minnesota, where that series drained me as a baseball fan, not even just as a Jays fan. An awful 2024, but last season, it rekindled my love of baseball, rekindled my love for the Jays, and it made me realize just how much I love baseball and just how much I love the Toronto Blue Jays. Lost Game 7 against the LA Dodgers in heartbreaking fashion, had many chances to clinch the World Series, did not do so. However, my favorite and all-time sports memory did occur last October when I was there in section, I believe, 513 for George Springer's home run in Game 7 against Seattle. Best moment I've ever seen with my own eyes in sport, maybe ever. Maybe that just shows I care a little bit too much about the Jays and about baseball in general, but I will never forget that moment. I say that I blacked out. I completely blacked out. First time I've ever really that's what blacking out feels like when it comes to just euphoria. It's been a long off season. It's been a long, long winter. And for the Jays, it's been a very interesting winter. Obviously, we've had some major transactions this entire offseason, bringing in a lot of people. Losing Bo, losing Bassett, who was the hound on the mound for us for the past 3 seasons. A lot of moving pieces in this team, but the real question everyone wants to know is, does this team have enough to make it back to the World Series, and this time maybe even win it? I'm not too sure. Only time will tell about that. But let's just get right in to some of the moves and what I want to be talking about. Let's just talk about this team and its outlook so far. Now that spring training has come upon us, let's just debrief a little bit of the offseason. Biggest move the Jays have made this offseason. Biggest signing they've made in a while was signing Dylan Cease to a 7-year, $210 million contract. Is it an overpay? Maybe. But just looking at Dylan Cease's stats here, I have his Baseball Savant page here. He doesn't really fit the Blue Jays mold when it comes to starting pitching. Obviously, Kevin Gausman is our ace. I think he still gets that day one start. But when you think of our other pitchers, Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett, they pitch for contact. They pitch for weak contact. Same with even Max Scherzer last year when he was pitching. He didn't really strike out a ton of guys. He pitched for weak contact. And Dylan Cease is not really that type of pitcher. He is the 95th percentile in whiff percentage, 80th in chase rate, 89th in strikeout percentage. So he is a guy who really, really does like to strike out people. He does walk a lot of people. He was bottom 20% in walk rate. A lot of walks, a lot of strikeouts. He uses that slider just as much as he uses his four-seam fastball, one of the best sliders in the league. So doesn't really have a third pitch. He does use the curve a little bit, but mostly a two-pitch pitcher in Dylan Cease. Kind of like Kevin Gausman and Trey Savage, where they got the fastball and the splitter, throwing the slider there from time to time. But, Dylan Cease, he's got the four-seamer and the slider, and he really uses those two pitches very, very well. Very well. He doesn't get hurt very much. Last year, he's coming off a bit of a rough year. If you look at his standard stats of 4.55 ERA, 168 innings pitched. He was a little banged up for a couple starts, but the year before, 190 innings pitched. The year before that, 177. So doesn't get hurt very much, which has kind of been the Blue Jays' MO when it comes to their starting pitchers. Think of Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios. Their starting pitchers don't get hurt very much. They have a great regiment to get their pitchers prepared and healthy throughout the entire season. He was fourth in the NL last year in strikeouts with 215. He's a great pitcher. I mean, he was second in Cy Young voting back in 2022 when we all know Alek Manoah. He was number 3. He's with the Angels now. We're going to talk a bit about the Angels and their dire straits in a little bit. But Dylan Cease, is it an overpay? Maybe. I don't think this contract is going to look great in 5 years' time. I remember when Kevin Gausman was signed, we had the similar thought. Well, it's a 5-year contract. Is that contract going to look great in year 4? Turns out it was, and then some. Kevin Gausman has been everything we could have asked for him and more, right? So I don't know if that's the same thing with Dylan Cease. He's got a lot of funky stuff. That slider is fantastic. Yet he uses it about 40% of the time with his fastball. Career 3.88 ERA. So, he's a great pitcher. He's a great pitcher. If you look at his baseball savant, there's a lot of red and then, again, a couple blues. And going back to what I was talking about, he doesn't get people to ground out a lot. His ground ball percentage is only in the 24th percentile, which, again, is very opposite to the likes of Barrios and Bassett, who pitch for a lot of weak contact on the ground. He makes players hit the ball in the air, and, he's coming from one of the best outfield defenses in the league, where you have Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr. out in right field. And he's coming to a team with equally, I would say, a very, very steady outfield defense as well, where you have Dalton Varsho in center field. Maybe you get Miles Straw worked in there somewhere, who's a great defender as well. So, I don't know. I think this is a great year for Dylan Cease to prove himself as a reliable number 1 starting pitcher who, last year was a bit unlucky. He was a bit unlucky last year, and I think some of his statistics show that. So, is it an overpay? Maybe. I think a lot of people think yes. I still think the jury's still out for Dylan Cease. But suffice it to say, Dylan Cease, Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, and Trey Savage, that is an incredible top 4 in the starting rotation. That 5 spot, though, is a bit interesting, as the Blue Jays, they also signed Cody Ponce to a 2-year, $38 million deal. Korean League MVP and Pitcher of the Year award last year, 17-1. Unbelievable. 1.89 ERA. Unbelievable. 29 starts, yet again, showing that durability, which the Jays love. Pitched 180 2/3 of an inning. And he doesn't give up home runs. Last year in the Korean Baseball League, it was 0.5 home runs per 9. That is the thing that kills the Blue Jays. It killed them in the World Series, literally, was that home run ball. And we signed this guy to be that 5th starter, maybe 6th. Maybe halfway through the season, he transitions to more like an Eric Lauer long relief pitcher. But he doesn't give up the home run ball that much. And he does not walk a lot of guys either. 2 walks per 9 and 12.6 strikeouts per nine last year in the Korean League. Unbelievable numbers for him. Will it translate to the MLB, though? There is the question that everyone wants to know. Will that translate to the MLB? Last time he pitched in the MLB was 2021 when he pitched for Pittsburgh, and he had a 7.89 ERA. That is not good, ladies and gentlemen. That is just not good at all. And he even then struggled in the Japanese league as well. You know, he had a couple rough years there where he was up above the 4.5 ERA mark for a couple years. Big bounce back year for him. I do like that it's not a one-year deal. Might be a bit of an overpay, but if he is right around the 4 ERA mark for the Jays this year as that fifth starter, I think everyone will look at that pretty fondly. And speaking of things that killed us in the postseason, our bullpen. Jeff Hoffman, man, that it was such a tough way to lose the World Series off a home run in the top of the ninth inning. Oh, just unbelievably bad luck and honestly just not good execution. So how did we respond to that? Well, we got Taylor Rogers. Taylor Rogers, who last year for the San Francisco Giants and the New York Mets, he posted a 1.89 ERA. Unbelievable stuff. His whip was below 1, which again for a closer was, or for a kind of a setup relief pitcher is just incredible. He only inherited 15 runners last year, which is pretty low, and 7 of those guys scored, so maybe not the best of luck, but we all know relief pitchers, they perform so much worse when they inherit runners, so you can't blame him too much for that one. His opponent OPS last year was .550, which that is just unbelievable. That was the best mark of his career besides his rookie year when he only played a few games. So, you know, Taylor Rogers, great relief pitcher. I think he's going to be fantastic in that 8th inning role. Maybe even he develops into a closer. You know, if Jeff Hoffman, he starts to struggle a bit to start the year, I wouldn't be surprised if they move Jeff Hoffman to this setup role and put Taylor Rogers in the closing spot. So, you know, a lot of questions to be had about that bullpen. But I think overall, the bullpen has improved, especially if you could put Eric Lauer there as our long relief pitcher full-time. He was great in the playoffs. Losing Chris Bassett, it was a bit tough. I'm interested to see if the Blue Jays even made him an offer or if the Blue Jays did talk to him and say, hey, we love you in the bullpen because our starting rotation is much better. I doubt he would have liked that, although he was fantastic in the bullpen throughout the entire playoff run. Another interesting note is Yimi Garcia is back. Last year was a bit rough for him. He only pitched about 20 innings before having to get Tommy John surgery. Had about a 3.86 ERA, which is about league average for a reliever. The year before for the Jays, before we traded him to Seattle, he was phenomenal, though. He posted an ERA under 2.8. He was our guy basically the entire season for that 7th and 8th innings. He was just electric in those innings. And with him back, you know, coming off from Tommy John, no one's the same after Tommy John. Will he be as good as he was 2 years ago? Probably not. But he does add some veteran presence to that bullpen. He can take the 6th or the 7th inning, and that's another big get for this Blue Jays team. A lot better than Jacob Barnes and Richard Lovelady being in our bullpen. Man, our team at the beginning of 2025, what were we doing, man? What were we doing? Alan Roden was in our starting lineup. Andres Jimenez was hitting cleanup in opening day last year. Granted, he had an incredible first 5 games, where I think he had 3 or 4 home runs in the first week of the season. But other than that, an interesting call to put him at the cleanup spot. Another thing I want to talk about heading into this season, Shane Bieber and his health. It's a little up there right now. Shane Bieber, he had some forearm tightness, but recently John Schneider came out and said that he's starting to feel good and throwing from about 120 feet, so double the length of the mound. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, he'll be getting off the mound and starting his progressions. So I hear that and I say, well, that's better than saying that he's not feeling well. Will he make opening day? Not too sure. Maybe he will. Jose Barrios, he's still kicking around. I thought we were going to trade Barrios throughout the season. I'm surprised he's still here after getting basically healthy scratched the entire the entire postseason. But Jose Brios, he's looking healthy. John Schneider said his stuff's back to where it probably was 2 years ago in terms of velocity and his breaking ball, which if we can get Jose Brios to be where he was 2 years ago, that is such a huge bolster for this team, because Jose Brios had a great start to the year last year, faltered out after the All-Star break, and then was basically unpitchable in August and September. So I really like to hear, and he was injured as well. So I really like to hear that he's coming back. He's one of my favorite pitchers. I love Jose Brios. Even when he had that awful 5.2 ERA season, I was still high on him. So a major improvement on the bullpen, on the starting rotation from where we were at this time last season. I love Chris Bassett. It was time for him to go. I think the Baltimore Orioles, 1 year, $18 million, I think the number was. I thought that was a bit of an overpay. It's a match made in heaven for the Orioles. I understand why they did it. It really works for them, but that just doesn't work for us. I think we've moved past Chris Bassett and needing him. So I'm very happy for him. I'm very happy for what he did with the Blue Jays, but I don't think he will be missed as much on the field. Obviously, he was a big leader and a big clubhouse guy, but I don't think on the field we'll be missing him too much when we have the likes of Dylan Cease, Shane Bieber, and Shreyas Savage stepping up and taking those 3-4 rotation piece roles. Now let's talk about some of the hitters. Obviously, the biggest loss for the Jays this offseason, Bo Bichette leaving the Jays and going to the New York Mets. We're going to get to the overall team predictions in just a little bit. But man, it's sad. It's sad Bo's gone. We watch him grow from a minor leaguer to a perennial all-star, one of the best hitters in the league type players. And it's just sad to see him go. Him and Vladdy, they came up together. They're best buddies, always hugging in the dugout together, always laughing, always kibitzing. Shave the Hair had what was on pace to be the second biggest home run in Blue Jays history in Game 7 of the World Series, that three-run shot off of Shohei Ohtani. Just some incredible moments, man, along the way. I don't know if I'm necessarily mad at Bo Bichette. I think what he got paid and the opt-outs that he's getting from the Mets, it's a big number. It's a really big number. The fact that Bo Bichette's making over $40 million a year AAV-wise, that's kind of insane. I don't know if he's worth that much money. And also the fact that he's playing third base, a position he's never played in the big leagues. I'm not even sure if he ever played third base in the minor leagues, maybe for a couple of games, but not for any extended amount of time. So there's a lot of question marks with Bo Bichette and if he's going to be able to stay healthy for a full 162. We saw what this Blue Jays team did without him. We beat the Yankees. We beat the Mariners without Bo Bichette. And we had a pretty decent end of the season without him too. The last half of August and all of September we did without Bo Bichette, and we still were able to clinch that first seed in the AL East. So granted, we almost choked it. But I think as the season goes on, we'll find our identity without Bo Bichette. And it's really about, the role players in the lineup who can make up for his hits and his timely hitting and his RBIs and even his home run pop. The pop lost a little step with Bo after having 31 homers in 2021, but he can still get him up there. Why can't he? So, yeah, I don't blame Bo Bichette for wanting to leave and taking the money and that great contract, a very, very player-friendly contract that he got. One of the most player-friendly contracts I think I've ever seen for a guy like Bo Bichette. But I'm more sad that he's gone. Not mad, not stressed that this team won't be able to respond without him, but just sad. It's a sad news to hear that Bo's gone. Got a lot of unjustified criticism when he was injured that year. A bad year, 2024. I didn't think that was really justified, but either way. Coming into fill Bo Bichette's spot, though, Kazuma Okamoto. He just played a bunch of years in the Japanese league, and he's looking good. He had an incredible play from third base, slotted to be the everyday third baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays this upcoming year, coming off of a season where he hit .327 in the Japanese league. A great season for him. He had a season a couple years ago. Well, he had a stretch for a few years where he was always hovering around the 30, if not 40 home run mark in the Japanese league. He had a stretch where he went 39, 30, 41, 27 this past year, 15. So the power goes away a little bit there. Granted, he played about half the season. But at the same time, the K rate is down to 11.3%. The walk rate is down to 11.3%. He walks just as many times as he strikes out, which, if that's not a Blue Jays hitter, I don't know what is. Had a 210 WRC plus in the Japanese league last year. Unbelievable hitter. He hits for contact. Changes his swing from a couple years ago to not chase as much. Take more pitches. Take more walks. And just have competitive ABs every single time you go up to the plate. I said he only had 15 home runs in 69 games. Nice. But he had a 1.014 OPS in those 69 games. A near 60 slug and over 40 on-base percentage in the Japanese league last year. Unbelievable. Unbelievable player. And he plays great defense too. I'm very excited to see what Okamoto does this year. Apparently he's a wizard at third base. We already saw that with that great play he made in the first day of spring training. 4 years, $60 million. That's a risk. That is a big risk. $15 million a year is not a large number by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to everyday baseball players. However, an interesting contract nonetheless. Will that be looked upon greatly in 4 years, or will it be another swing and a miss? Speaking of swings and misses, though, Anthony Santander, my goodness, came out a couple weeks ago that he will require shoulder surgery right before he reports for spring training. I don't want to waste my breath too much on Anthony Santander going down as more of like an Anthony Rendon contract, for God's sake. Like, has a horrid 2025 year. Doesn't really contribute much in the postseason. And just a couple weeks before spring training says, I'm going to need to have surgery. And kind of puts the team in a spot where they have to make a move. We traded for Jesus Sanchez because of that. We had to trade Joey Lopez-Perfito back to Houston for Jesus Sanchez because our everyday DH or even right fielder is going to be out. He was going to be our everyday right fielder, not DH. That's still George Springer. But he's going to be out now for half the season at least. And my question to Santander is, why did you not do this right after the postseason? Why did it take you so long? It took you all offseason and a week before you were supposed to report for spring training to tell the team you need to have surgery and then to actually get it? I don't understand that. You got your money. You had a great last season with the Orioles where you had 40 home runs. You take the money, you're banged up, and everyone's willing to give you a second chance because we know how good of a hitter you are and how valuable of a hitter you can be for this lineup hitting behind Vladdy. And that's what happens. And then you do that. I'm still holding out that he'll be a good signing. But, man, that hope is fading very, very quickly. Speaking of which, let's take a look at Jesus Sanchez. Not the best player, but there's some room to grow. Kind of like Addison Barger, where some of his fielding wasn't great. Some of his contact metrics weren't great either. The strikeout rate's really high up there. But he's got a great arm, and his bat speed is near the top in the league. David Popkins, work your voodoo magic. He smacks against right-handers, not so good against lefties. Not very good at all against lefties, I should say. So he'll probably be the opening day starting right fielder, which that's interesting. He's coming off his season, played in Houston, and someone else, I forget who, but he only slashed .237, .304, .395 for a .699 OPS. Not the best, but a couple years before that, he was right around the .750 OPS mark when he was still with Miami. So if we are able to, fix his swing, David Popkins yet again, he's showing why he makes the big bucks. Maybe there's something there. The bat speed's there, the exit velo's there. The barrel percentage isn't quite there, but it's getting up there. It's around the 68, 69 percentile, according to Baseball Savant. So if we're able to bump that up just a little bit, he could be an interesting player. He does strike out a fair amount, doesn't walk a ton. He chases a lot, swings and misses a lot. So, again, that could also be some coaching as well that we can instill into Mr. Sanchez to make him more of a above league average hitter and our starting right fielder. Eloy Jimenez, he's with the Jays. Maybe he can turn back the clock like he was in the White Sox. He was one of my favorite players to watch back in the 2020, 2021 days when the White Sox were looking like they could do something special, but didn't really work out that way. But, maybe he'll make the roster as a depth bat, maybe a pinch hit every now and then if he makes the 26 man. I'm not too sure. I just thought it was kind of funny that Eloy Jimenez is now getting, I think, his 4th shot. He had a couple shots with the White Sox and then had a shot last year with the Orioles. Or maybe that was 2 years ago. And now he's back with the Jays. That'd be great. I loved Eloy Jimenez when he was on the White Sox. I thought he was so fun. Let's get down to some team predictions. We recapped the offseason pretty well, I think. Let's get down to some team predictions. Team MVP. Obviously, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think this man is so incredible. He changed his swing a couple times throughout the past couple of years. We know that it's more focused on contact and extra base hits and hard hit velocity than he is home runs. Only had 23 or 24 home runs last year, but I believe he was still around the 11th, 12th mark in OPS in the entire major leagues last year. And he's the captain of the team. He's the face of the franchise. This is the first year of that mega contract that he signed. First year. I think last year in the postseason, he shut a lot of people up. He showed up. He showed out. He had an historic postseason. I think he silenced a lot of critics. And now it's just time for him to get back and keep doing what he does. He was quoted the other day saying that this is the best he's ever felt in his career, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. This is the most the team has been clicking, he said. So, you're hearing all this good stuff from Vlad. I don't know how well George Springer is going to hit this year. He's a big question mark. Same with guys like Addison Barger and Ernie Clement. Can Ernie Clement recreate the magic he had last year in the postseason? Probably not. But this is Vlad's team, and he's going to be the captain of it. And I think this team's success really relies upon him. And we can't forget about Alejandro Kirk. He is the second best defensive catcher in the league behind Kyle Raleigh. He was the catalyst at that 5-hole hitter to get the middle of the order going last year. Best 2-strike hitter in the entire league. Look it up. So I really think Alejandro Kirk is going to have a very, very good season as well if this team wants any shot at making it back to the World Series. He's going to have to hit above his weight just like he did last year. The average is way up there. The contact was way up there. Even the power was way up there. No, he was knocking around the 15 home run mark, which over the past couple of years, we would have seemed like an impossibility from his 2024 and 2023 self. So if he can continue on that trend and just, again, keep putting together some very good professional at-bats and knocking the ball all around the park, playing some excellent defense, making our pitchers' lives a little bit easier, I think he's going to have a fantastic year. And he might run Vladdy for team MVP. I think that's the type of player that Alejandro Kirk can be. My breakout player of the year, maybe not a breakout player, but a player that I think is going to have a vital, vital role on this team. I think that has to be Shane Bieber. We know what's going to happen out of the lineup, and you can say, well, Jesus Sanchez, what's he going to do? Okamoto, what's he going to do? Barger, what's he going to do? You could say that for basically anybody in this lineup. George Springer, anyone. So going off the board a little bit here, you know what you're going to get from Dylan Cease. Hopefully we know what we're going to get from Kevin Gausman. Don't really know what we're going to have with Cody Ponce. Don't really know what we're going to get out of a full 162 from Trey Savage. But Shane Bieber, man, he has such a high ceiling. He won a Cy Young in 2020. We can't forget that. He's been an excellent starting pitcher for years. He came off a bad injury 2 years ago, or he came off the injury last year. It looked good to end the year. Looked a little bit shaky in some playoff starts. Had a great start against Seattle, and then had a not-so-great start in Game 7 against Seattle. Had a pretty decent one in the World Series. So a couple interesting notes on him. He is injured coming into the year with that forearm thing like we were just talking about. Will he be fully healthy to start the year? I'm not too sure. But right now, I believe he should be slated as the third starter, Maybe the fourth if you really believe in Trey Savage that much. Obviously, Cease and Gosman are 1-2. So he's that third, maybe fourth starter. And I think a lot of this team's starting pitching performance is going to rely on him. Because, even in the playoffs, you go Dylan Cease, Kevin Gosman. That third start is vital. And if we can rely on Shane Bieber to hover around the 3.50 ERA mark for the entire year, I think that does wonders for this team. I think that takes off the pressure of the bullpen a fair bit, knowing that they might not have to go all day when he's out there. For Shane Bieber, the biggest thing you need to worry about is consistency, I think. And if Shane Bieber can be consistent, I think that does so many good things for this pitching staff and for this team. Because right now we have 4 pitchers who could go out there and keep any game competitive for at least 6 innings. Kevin Gosman, you have a chance to win every time he's on the mound. Same with Dylan Cease. Trey Savage, don't have a huge sample size, but every time he took the mound, he gave you a chance to win. If Shane Bieber can give you the same thing, Cody Ponce, question mark, Jose Brios, question mark, as that 5th starter. But if Shane Bieber can round out that rotation and say every time Shane Bieber takes the mound, I'm going to give you a chance to win a baseball game for 6 innings with this offense and the question mark that this lineup is, that's huge for the Jays. Let's talk about some larger picture things. There's a few contract years up at the end of this season for the Blue Jays. Guys like Kevin Gosman, guys like George Springer, and most importantly, in my opinion, guys like Dalton Varsho. Varsho is coming off a season where he missed half of the year with a shoulder injury, and then had a fantastic end to the year. I think he hit 20 bombs in 60 games, 70 games, something like that. He's fast. He's one of, if not the best defensive center fielders in the entire league. He's going to get paid. I don't know what exactly the number is, though. That's a tough one. Does he stay healthy? Does he continue to hit like he did at the end of last season and not like how he did in the World Series? Because every at-bat for him in the World Series was basically an automatic out, besides Game 1 where he ripped a home run or 2. So he's a very interesting case to me. He's going to have a great season. Most players do in a contract year, unless your name is Matt Chapman. And he still got paid, so hats off to him. Dalton Varsho, he's a great player. He's a phenomenal defender, great hitter, or can be a great hitter at times. The lefties still trip him up, though, so that might be something that they've worked on for the past 4 years. We'll see if he takes any strides towards those. He certainly did at the end of last season. Hopefully those trends stick around for this one. Dalton Varsho, I feel like I'm a repeating record here, but he's a great player. I'm not too sure what his next contract's going to look like. I would assume it's going to be one of those long-term deals because besides that shoulder surgery, you can count on him to play most days and provide a very good defense and a pretty competitive at-bat for the most part. I would assume he's probably around the $25 million a year mark for maybe not even, maybe $22.5 million a year for 5 years would be my guess. Gosman, kind of the same thing. I'm assuming that Gosman would get a shorter-term contract just because of his age. I'm not too sure if he takes a discount to keep the team together, and so that goes with Springer as well. Again, I would assume it's around the $20 million mark for another 3 years, maybe 25 for another 3 years of Gosman. I'd take that deal if I were the Jays. Springer is a big question mark. I think this year is a big money-making year for George Springer or money-losing year for George Springer. At the same time, last year was the best year of his career at the plate. No one saw it coming. It was magical. Loved George Springer. Had that home run in Game 7 against Seattle. We all love George Springer, but if this year for George Springer looks like 2024 or 2023 George Springer and not 2025 George Springer, I think that does a lot to what his next contract is going to be. I hope he has a 2025 like MLB season this year, but I just don't know. He is another big question mark. I feel like I'm saying question mark a lot in this video. But that's what this team is. Let's face it. No one really expected us to make the World Series last season. I know I didn't. I would have said our ceiling was to make the wild card, and we made the World Series last season. So I don't know what to think anymore. And I don't know if any of our players, any of our lineup are going to adjust to Bo Bichette leaving. I don't know I know our rotation is going to be good, but I don't know how our bullpen is going to look in August. Right? So just a lot of question marks. But let's try to be definitive for a little bit here. A ceiling for the team. I think the ceiling for the team is to go back to the World Series. I think they have what it takes. They've shown that they have what it takes. They've shown that they're able to make the adjustments, both defensively, pitching-wise, in the batter's box, to combat certain teams a certain way, to not only win a series, but to win individual games, if you know what I mean. You know, they played the Yankees much differently than they played Seattle, right? So, and that goes the same thing for the Dodgers as well. So they've been able to show that they have what it takes to win baseball games in big moments. And it's all about the mentality for them as well. And I think with this team, you're looking at each other and you're saying, well, why can't we? Why can't we go out and go back to the World Series and beat the Yankees again and beat Seattle again and beat the Red Sox again in the playoffs to make it back with supposedly the Dodgers and this time maybe even win it? I think that's a ceiling for this team. The floor is where it gets very interesting because as much as I could see this team making the World Series, I could also see this team having incredible struggles at the plate. Bullpen isn't really clicking. Dylan Cease's contract looks worse and worse with each start. I could see this team barely squeaking into a playoff spot and losing in the wild card round. I think that is the floor for this team. I don't think this team constructed on paper with the people they have in charge. We know Ross Atkins is going to be aggressive at the trade deadline, whatever their record is, unless it's like catastrophically bad. So I think if you look at this team on paper, you think to yourself, there's no way they aren't making the playoffs. And you look at the teams in the division, it's a great division. AL East proving again why it's such a beast. The beasts in the Easts. That was so bad. But yeah, like you saw what we did against the Yankees last year. You saw what you did against the Orioles last year. Granted, the Orioles got a lot better. You saw what you did kind of against the Red Sox last year, and we owned the Tampa Bay Rays last year, who got worse, in my opinion. So we're going to be a good team. I would be shocked and incredibly disappointed if we're at all hovering around 500 in September. That would be really, really bad. I think that would be one of the most disappointing seasons we've seen since this Leaf season, honestly. Currently, the over-under that BetMGM has for the 2026 win total is 88.5 wins. That's a good line. It's a good line. I think a lot of things are taken into consideration with that. Looks like the betting odds, it's minus 120 on the under of 88.5. I'm not too sure if I agree with that. More people are taking the under than the over. Obviously, Bo Bichette is huge. Our pitching is so much better than it was in opening day last year. Our starting pitching was better. Our bullpen is better. We don't have Jacob Barnes pitching for this team anymore. We don't have Richard Lovelady pitching for this team anymore. We don't have Nick Sandlin pitching for this team anymore. He was good, but he was injured. The lineup is, not as good. This lineup is not as good as it was Game 7 of the World Series, but this lineup is still miles better than opening day 2025. You can't deny that. And if Addison Barger's getting consistent playing time out in right field, if Ernie Clement can still be a league average or above league average hitter this year in terms of contact, if Andres Jimenez cannot be one of the worst hitters in the league and can be around like a 95 a 95 OPS plus hitter instead of like an 80 OPS plus hitter, that's going to be big. So I think the 88.5 is an interesting line. I'm taking the over on that. I just think this team has proven that they have a great mentality. They had 94 wins last year, which is more than people thought. But at the same time, there were a lot of games in those 68 losses where we could have won. A lot of games where we could have won, especially in September when the Yankees were going on their hot streak, threatening our number one division spot. We could have won a lot of those games. I know that's how baseball works a lot of times and everything like that, but I think this team has what it takes to break 90 wins. My record prediction is 91-71 for this Jays team, right in the middle of the line where they were last year. I think they might take a bit of a step back after losing Bo, but only time will tell, I guess. All right, now with the Jays talk out of the way, let's transition to talk about just some general baseball. I want to focus on the AL East because that does still pertain to the Jays, and the team that really scares me are the Boston Red Sox. They made a couple great moves this offseason. Biggest one for me, Wilson Contreras. He is slotted to be the everyday first baseman. Carlos Narvaez, one of the best defensive catchers in the league. He's still going to be their everyday catcher. I think Wilson Contreras is done playing catcher full-time in the MLB. He's still a great hitter. St. Louis, they're going through whatever they've been going through the past number of years. At 117 WRC plus is 789 OPS last year. Does strike out a fair amount, doesn't walk very much, but at the same time, just a great player. He's a great hitter. He's slotted as their everyday first baseman, as I said, also slotted as their cleanup hitter. After Roman Anthony, Trevor Story, can he stay healthy? If he can, that's going to be incredible for them. Jarren Duran as well. Willie Abreu, Caleb Durbin. Caleb Durbin's a big pickup, great rookie. I know he's 26, a bit old for a second-year guy, but Caleb Durbin from Milwaukee, I thought that was a great trade for them. Rafaela, one of the best, if not, again, like a Dalton Varsho. He's so much faster than Varsho, too, which is scary. Probably objectively the best center fielder in the league. I think it's between him, Varsho, and who's that guy? Pete Crow Armstrong. I think it's between those three for best defensive center fielders in the league. He's incredible. Some question marks at the bottom of this lineup with Marcelo Meyer and Carlos Narvaez. Can they stay hot at the plate? Marcelo Meyer, he's entering his rookie season. Not too sure how he's going to look, but he's touted as one of their best prospects. Left-handed bat in there. They have a great lineup, man. They really do. It scares me. I think they have 6 guys who give you competitive at-bats, 3 question marks. If they can put it together at the plate, they can have a very, very complete lineup. They got IKF off the bench, Yoshida off the bench. He's not going to AAA, even though he maybe should, but given that contract, he's not going anywhere. And their rotation's great, too. They traded for Sonny Gray. Can he bounce back this year? Ranger Suarez, he's great. Aroldis Chapman, can he still have the season he did last year, which just turned back the clock, had the best year of his career. Still have Garrett Whitlock back there. Zach Kelly, back end the bullpen is great for like middle relief pitchers. They're not awesome, but still have a great pitching staff in general. Sonny Gray, I think, is going to do great for this. Brian Bayo, I don't know how to pronounce his name very well, but Brian Bayo. He's great. I love Brian Bayo. He had a 4.22 ERA last year. He was really hot to start the year, kind of faltered a bit down the stretch. But he's a guy that can turn this rotation around if he gets hot. Obviously, Garrett Crochet, top 4 pitcher in the league. I think probably goes Skeens, Skubal. I think third's a toss-up between Crochet and Yamamoto. But he's fantastic. What a trade for them. This Red Sox team, it scares me. They lost Bregman, obviously a big loss. They replaced him with Caleb Durbin. Obviously, the bat's not there with Durbin compared to Bregman, as Bregman goes to the Cubs. But they still have a great lineup. They really do. They scare me. I think they're going to be the Blue Jays' toughest test in the AL East. Speaking of which, the New York Yankees just decide to run it back. And on paper, you look at this team, and they have some great names, obviously. I can list them off. I will in just a second. They have some great names. Just their philosophy in hitting and playing the game is so interesting to me. They live and die by the home run. They only have a couple players in this lineup who are really able to, get a single. John Boy Media, Talking Yanks, they do a fantastic podcast. They review every Yankees series every day. It was a great listen when the Blue Jays beat them in the playoffs. They're a great listen anytime, but it was very good them. And they made a great point where over 162, they will outslug you. They will, over 162 games, they will be first in home runs. They will be top 5 in hits. They'll be top 5 in average. They'll be top 5 in slugging percentage and OPS because that's how they do it. That's how they play. Every at-bat, you get an A swing in there, no matter the situation. So it's very interesting that is still the philosophy of this team, and they're running it back. Again, on paper, you win 94 games. 2 years ago, you go to the World Series. So there's a lot of reason to believe that this is still going to be a great team, and I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they'll be hovering around that 90, 93, 94 win mark yet again, especially if Garrett Cole can come back healthy. But still an interesting offseason for them. Aaron Judge, he called out the team, kind of. He basically made a remark that, we're the New York Yankees, and we have to show that we're the New York Yankees by signing guys in the offseason. Like, this is not what we do. Like, when was the last offseason where we did nothing? Right? Can you remember the last offseason where the New York Yankees did nothing? Last season, signed Cody Bellinger, signed Devin Williams. Or trade for Cody Bellinger and signed Devin Williams. Season before that, they traded for Juan Soto. The year before that, they were around the 500 marker, just over 500. Needed to change something there. So it's a very interesting team. I think they will be defensively better than last year with Jose Caballero slotted as their everyday shortstop, because Anthony Volpe, my gosh, what they've done to him is just, it sucks, man. It sucks. I feel for Anthony Volpe. Ryan McMahon, everyday third baseman now. He's going to bring the glove every single day. Ben Rice is slotted as their cleanup hitter and everyday first baseman. They think that he is like going to be the next Barry Bonds. Obviously not to that extent, but the New York Yankees, I think they look at Ben Rice being like, he's still 27 years old. He's not like a young guy. They look at Ben Rice and they think to themselves, we got a player here. And he is a player, but I think he needs to prove it for more than one season. He had a great year last year. I think he had 26 or 27 home runs in just under 140 games. But yet again, that's what the Yankees do. And we saw him struggle in the playoffs, especially when Gausman and Savage kept throwing him split fingers. Like, he had no combat for that. Rotation's still great. Max Fried, he's going to be great. Traded for Ryan Weathers. He's going to be slotted as like a fifth starter as well. Him and Louis Heel. He's going to be great. I think that's a good pickup for them. Some question marks around Garrett Cole. Will he be good after Tommy John? Will he be back to his former self? Same with Carlos Rondon. He had surgery just after the Yankees got eliminated from the postseason. He's slated to make the opening day roster and pitch a little bit in spring training, but he's still a little bit of a question mark. If everything goes right for this team and their bullpen and their starting pitching, I think there's no reason to doubt that they are still going to be a top team in the league as they were last year. But will it get it done in playoffs? Who knows? Only time will tell. Just interesting that they didn't really make any big moves. Like, they brought back Paul Goldschmidt, brought back Ahmed Rosario, Oswaldo Cabrera is still there. Jason Rodriguez is such an interesting question. Right now they have him starting the season in AAA. He's 23, 24 years old. I feel like Jason Dominguez has just been slated as one of the top prospects in the league, and the Yankees have kind of fumbled him a little bit so far in his career. He doesn't really get consistent playing time. Left field does not really agree with him at all. He hits right-handers very well, but against lefties, he's awful. As a switch hitter, you would like to have some consistency from both sides of the plate. It's just interesting, man. Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe were slated to be the next faces of the franchise, along with Judge. And right now, it's not looking that's gonna happen. Interesting case, the Yankees. Very interested to see how they perform this year in relation to the AL East and all the other teams. Orioles, they got better too. Added Chris Bassett, that's big for them. I thought they were going to be the ones to sign Faber Valdez. That, again, just seemed like a match made in heaven. He goes to the Tigers, who we're just about to talk about. And they signed Pete Alonso, who's a huge step up. Lost Ryan O'Hearn. That might hurt them a little bit, but when you have Pete Alonso taking his spot, I don't think you're going to be hurting too much. Orioles, they're going to be dangerous. I think they're going to give the Blue Jays and Red Sox and Yankees a run for that third or second seed in the East. Tampa, Junior Caminero is great. That's about all I can say about Tampa. Tarek Skubal and the Detroit Tigers. What an interesting case study this is. Tarek Skubal won his arbitration deal, most money anyone's ever made in arbitration, $32 million. Tigers offered him or slotted in their proposal at $19 million. Biggest discrepancy in arbitration history. Crazy. Now, they did sign Faber Valdez, and some people look at that as, well, you didn't want to give Tarek Skubal this amount of money, but then you gave Faber Valdez $38 million. Most money a left-handed pitcher's ever made. Most money Hispanic, like an international, left-handed pitcher has ever made, period. So great for Faber Valdez. It's a great match for them. That 1-2, man, if you're facing the Tigers in a wild card series and you got to go from Skubal to Valdez, that is going to be a tough back-to-back for any team in the wild card. Interesting that they didn't do anything to their lineup. Clearly the banking on Riley Green having a great season again and not kind of faltering after the All-Star break like we saw Pete Crow Armstrong do and a lot of guys like that, kind of younger outfielders like that. Kerry Carpenter, they're hoping he can take the next step up. Dylan Dingler, great name. Hoping he can hit against righties just as well as he can hit against lefties. Spencer Torkelson, he still has a bit of a strikeout issue, but hoping he can round out his game a fair bit more. Tigers are an interesting case, man. I think they're going to be a great team. Just interesting that Tarek Skubal and them, their relationship's not very good. And if you're the Tigers, I think you know that this is Skubal's last year. You're not going to pay him. So when you have a generational type talent like Tarek Skubal, you know you only have him for really this year because I don't think there's any world in that he re-signs with the Tigers. You don't trade him. That would be bad for baseball. That would be bad for baseball if Tarek Skubal gets traded. I think you put your chips in this year. You have some good top-end prospects that you can trade at the deadline. If there's a big name like a Taylor Ward, he's not a very big name, but if there's like a Taylor Ward up for sale at the deadline, who else would there be? If Eugenio Suarez, if he doesn't really click in Cincinnati and they're looking to trade him, I know he's got the mutual option at the end of the year. Like, they can go out and get someone with the prospects they have and how their team might be looking to bolster that lineup. It's going to be interesting. I like the Tigers a lot this year. I think they are definitely going to win the Central this year. Them or the Royals. I really like the Royals as well. Bobby Witt, Pasquantino. I also want to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers a little bit. Sammy and Anthony, obviously they're huge Jays fans, but their second team is the Milwaukee Brewers. They have some family there from Milwaukee. They go to games from time to time. They love the Brewers. And I like the Brewers too. What they did with Freddie Peralta is shameful, though. Traded him to the New York Mets because you didn't want to pay him. A tale old this time, but now you have Brandon Woodruff as your ace, The Miz as your second guy, Jacob Mizorowski. Quinn Priester, he's pretty good, and then your 4-5, that's a big question mark with Chad Patrick and Logan Henderson slotted on Fangraphs here. It's a very interesting case study are the Milwaukee Brewers. You know they're going to be great. They're kind of the upgraded version of the Cleveland Guardians year in and year out. You still have Jackson Chourio, Bryce Terang, William Contreras, Yelich. Andrew Vaughn, he's slotted as their everyday first baseman. Will he be as electric as he was to end the year last year for the Brewers post-trade deadline? Luis Rengifo, he's there to fill in the void of, Caleb Durbin. The name escaped me there a second. Garrett Mitchell, catcher. Joey Ortiz, all glove, no bat. An interesting lineup. I just think it's interesting how every year the Milwaukee Brewers just find some way to be good and then don't add to the team. Just interesting. I don't know. They were the best team in the league in the regular season last year and then got demolished by the Dodgers in the NLCS. And you would think if you're the GM or owner, you look at that and be like, we are right there. We just need a couple more pieces to really round out this team, this starting rotation, this lineup, because they just could not score against the Dodgers, if you remember. And they answer by replacing Caleb Durbin with Luis Rengifo, who is fine, not adding to the lineup whatsoever, and trading away your ace. Bullpen's still great. Uribe's awesome. Trevor McGill, he's really, really good too. Just interesting. Just very interesting, the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't know where they're going. Last team I want to talk about are the team Bo Bichette left for the New York Mets. Very interesting team this year. Bo Bichette playing third base. Like I said before, a position he's never played in the major leagues. Don't think he's really ever played it in the minor leagues. We know the bat's going to be there. Will the glove be there? The glove's actually, sorry, I shouldn't even say the glove. The glove's always there. Will the arm be there? We already saw him make a throwing error in the first game. Granted, it was a very, very tough throw. I think if the first baseman stretched a little bit more, he would have gotten it. But nonetheless, already a fielding error for Bo Bichette on the Mets. It's interesting. Vladdy made Bo look better than he was a few times, and they got Jorge Polanco as their starting everyday first baseman. He's making the transition from DH to first base, and before he was the DH for Seattle last year, he was an everyday second baseman. He's never played first base for a consistent amount of time in the major leagues. He's a great athlete. He's 32 years old, about to be 33 in July. He's a great player, very versatile, but will he be defensively reliable as your everyday first baseman when you have guys like Bo Bichette playing third base? I don't know. I just don't know. But then looking at the rest of this lineup, obviously Lindor, Soto, Bichette, Polanco, he's a fantastic hitter. Marcus Semien, can he turn it around with the bat? He traded for a guy like Luis Robert Jr. Finally leaves the White Sox to go to a competitive team. He had a bad couple of years. Man, he's been snake bitten by the White Sox. But a couple of seasons ago, almost had 40 home runs, 80 RBIs, pretty decent average. Right now, he's slotted as the at the 8 hole behind Francisco Alvarez, who's hitting 7th for them. So yeah, just an interesting trade. Hopefully, he can turn around for his sake. They traded for Freddie Peralta. They needed that badly. But looking at this rest of this pitching staff here, Clay Holmes is a huge question mark. He's great when he's healthy, but can he stay healthy? He's just about to turn 33. Kodai Senga, he's pretty inconsistent. I'm sure you can ask many Mets fans, and they'll say the same thing. He's either Cy Young or, I don't even know who would be a great. Oh, who's that Jays pitcher who was so bad? So it's like 2018, 2019. Oh, what is his name? I can see his face. Clay something. Oh, this is going to kill me. This is going to kill me, folks.
Clay Buchholz?
Clay Buchholz. What?
Clay Buchholz?
Buchholz. They said whatever. Yeah, he's either him or him. Kodai Senga is either a Cy Young candidate or just the worst pitcher you've ever seen, apparently.
2-9, 6.56 ERA.
Yeah, he was awful. Just awful. And then, again, you got Devin Williams. You got Luke Weaver. He was great for the Yankees last year until he wasn't. Tobias Myers, he's okay. Beginning, middle relief pitcher. He's all right. So, an interesting lineup for sure. You got AJ Minter on he got lat surgery last year. Can he come back and still be effective? That would be huge for that bullpen if you put him in front of Devin Williams. He would be big piece to that bullpen if he's able to come back healthy. A very interesting lineup. Again, I think their ceiling is World Series, and I could also see their floor being the same as the Jays, like a wild card loss. I think this team's too good to not make the playoffs. Everything would have to go wrong, which inevitably it did last season. But I think that the Mets are a great team. Very interested to see Bo Bichette and Jorge Polanco. Very, very interested. You know what you're going to get from everyone else. Marcus Semien, elite defender. Same with Lindor. Soto, he's got an arm, but not really a glove. Francisco Alvarez, he's great. Brett Beatty is the DH. I don't know how consistent he is. Like, he's about a league average hitter, maybe a little bit better than that last season, but he can be very, very inconsistent. Question mark for the team for sure. They're going to be great. Just a couple big question marks, especially with Bo Bichette. He just looks so weird in Mets jersey. I feel like the jersey just doesn't suit him. Like, if he went to, I don't even know. Just trying to picture him in another jersey that's not a Jay. He just looks so good in a Jays uniform. So good. I'm sad he's not. Anyway, I've been rambling for so long. I think that just about does it for this episode. Hopefully you found that informative. If not, I had a great time talking about baseball. I love baseball. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in the coming weeks and months. Go Blue Jays, go. And for now, again, my name has been Simon Hendricks. It still is Simon Hendricks. And we will see you next time.